pay your way.
Especially because Republicans who get endorsements from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign. All right, everybody, good evening. Welcome to this very special Tuesday night live stream. We are still doing our Wednesday night live stream. We are waiting on the person that's going to be on with us for Wednesday night. And so tonight we have a very special, cool live stream. Been waiting on this for a long time. And before we get started, I just want to send my heartfelt thoughts and prayers. We had a very, very bad car accident today in Walker County. Some young people lost their lives. It was a very bad car accident, and it happened to affect my kids. My kids both were in school with each one of the people that lost their lives, and then there's another child that was airlifted to the nearest hospital, and it was just really bad, and it all happened late this afternoon, all of a sudden, and it's affecting a lot of people. And so I just want to send my thoughts and my prayers out there to our county and all the families that are involved, because this has definitely touched a lot of people. So we're praying for you out there. And tonight we're going to welcome Alex Johnson here with us on the show. I know a lot of people are kind of excited about this. I don't know, Alex, if you've seen, but I made the advertisement for this, and I went back and looked at it an hour, and it had 65 shares. So people are definitely interested in hearing what you have to say. So I want to welcome tonight Alex Johnson. Alex is the president of the GRA, the Georgia Republican Assembly, and we're gonna talk all things convention. So welcome to the show, man.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on.
Yes, you want to tell the audience a little bit about who you are, because what we're doing is pretty much educational, and you can talk about the GRA. Just tell us who you are, a little bit of your background.
All right. Well, I'm Alex Johnson. I'm the chairman of the Georgia Republican Assembly, and I'm president of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. Now, those are volunteer groups. They're all volunteer. No one's getting paid for that. My profession, I mean, I've been a lawyer for about 15 years now. I do constitutional rights litigation, do personal injury litigation. I have a small toddler at home with my wife out here in DeKalb County, Georgia. I've been involved in the Republican Party. I've always been a Republican. I've been involved in the party itself since about 2009, I believe. I realized for sure that it had some serious issues in 2012. I ran for state party chair a few times in 2013, 15, and 17.
That's right.
I got involved in the Republican Assembly in 15, and we went from about 5 people in Georgia to now we have over 1,000 members. So we've been doing a lot to make things happen.
That is freaking amazing. See, you have done many things, including running for the GOP chair yourself. You've been involved in a lot of this stuff, and I wanted to bring you on here tonight. And full disclosure, anybody out there, I'm a member of the GRA. I support the GRA. I love the foundation of the GRA, how they endorse their candidates by the body of the people, and I think that you guys probably do it as right as you can, or as close as you can get it. And so what we wanted to do is focus on the education. We've got a lot of new people. We've obviously, with Trump and the resurgence of sort of this America First patriot movement, a lot of new people have come into the party, right? This is where the war is. And so we've got conventions coming up, right? I've attended a couple of conventions. I've never been a voting delegate in one, or been to the one where you're electing slates. And I think a lot of people have so many questions. I get reached out to all the time. They think I'm smart and I can answer this stuff, So that's why I wanted you here tonight. So like you can just kind of walk us through a little bit and give us some of your insight.
All right. Well, the conventions, for people who haven't done this a lot, or even if you have, so the conventions are every 2 years in Georgia, and this is only Georgia. If you come from a different state, different states have different systems. But in Georgia, every 2 years, you elect party leadership. It's from ground up. You also elect vote-in party rules. You also have resolutions, and that happens throughout the convention process. Now, at this point of the convention process, there have already been precinct meetings where you elected precinct leadership and anything you wanted there. And you've already elected county leadership and any resolutions or rules there. And then you elected delegates to the district convention, which is this month for everyone. Right. And then the state convention, which is being held up in Dalton in, I think it's the beginning of June.
Yep.
So that is the background. So you'll be electing district leadership at the conventions this month. And the district leadership, the district chair, sits on the executive committee of the state party. And then you elect a number of state committee members that sit on the state committee. But that district chair also sits on the state committee. Okay. Now, you may be wondering, what is the state committee? What's the point of this? They run the party between conventions.
Okay.
The executive committee runs the party between meetings of the state committee. And as a practical matter, ever since I've been involved, again, this goes back to 2009, the chairman of the party pretty much does a lot of the work, pretty much has a lot of power, influence, spends money, runs the party. Okay. In Georgia, the party chair is an unpaid position. Mm-hmm. Some states, the party chair is paid. In those states, it's usually some political consultant, political industry type that runs the party.
Okay.
So these comments on money, what I made earlier about my political involvement being unpaid, my comment about the chair of Georgia being unpaid, but chairs of other states being paid. Mm-hmm. And in Georgia, the party chair usually hires an executive director and other staff, which are paid. Okay. So I mention all of that because politics, not for probably you, if you're listening to the show, and not for me, but for a lot of people, it is an industry. It is a way that people make money. Yeah. So a lot of what happens in the party is those people who make money show up to the conventions. It's usually a small minority of them, at least now after the GRA is removed and outnumbered a lot of them. But you have paid people show up. Those people say things like, well, we don't want to pass this resolution calling out a politician who did something bad, or we don't want to do this thing to not allow this person to qualify for a Republican Party office because that might cause problems. That might make people upset. That might make people angry. Or if you run against somebody that might be like, oh, well, that person's been involved in the party forever. How dare you run against them? They're friends with Senator so-and-so, or they work for such and such group. Though that is an establishment mindset.
Agreed.
That mindset is one that you, the voter, the person who is showing up, sacrificing your time, not getting paid, showing up because you want to see the country be better and you want to see the party be better. They don't really want you to be the ones with the power. They don't want you to be the ones on the state committee. They don't want you to be the district chair. They don't want you to be in the other district positions, although frankly, those are oftentimes much less important than the chair or the state committee members. But they don't want you to be doing that. They want you to just go along with the people who've been involved, because those people are a safe commodity that aren't going to be in favor of, for example, not qualifying John Burns for office as a Republican.
Right.
John Burns being the gentleman who is the Speaker of the House, who, if you look up Colton Moore, John Burns banned unilaterally Colton Moore from the House, which I believe is unconstitutional, and also turned around and led to him being arrested when he didn't do anything wrong. It made international news. It was a huge embarrassment to Georgia. But I mean, a lot of people are afraid of Speaker John Burns because John Burns was friends with Speaker Ralston, and Senator Moore in debate didn't want a building named after Ralston, because Ralston was, according to Colton Moore, I think he used the word corrupt. So that is the dynamic you have. So I don't know what would be good to follow up on, but that's where we sort of are.
No, I agree 100%. As you're laying this out, and we're here to educate tonight, but you are kind of verbatim saying what a lot of us are feeling here. All right. I've never experienced where you work at a job somewhere and you have this thing called seniority, right? To me, this is what it almost feels like. It almost feels like it's a seniority issue where, no, we can't accept your ideas, or we can't accept these other people because, we're in line at this and we're ready to go. Look, I've always said, may the best person win on the debate stage. That's where I want to see it. We have to educate ourselves. We have to get smart enough and look into this stuff enough to make an educated decision. We don't need to be sheeple and follow whatever. We need to go with our conscience and vote our way. And it really feels like this is playing out exactly how you say.
Yeah, and it's difficult because there's a divide, right? So either you're involved to serve the people, or you're involved to sort of make connections, be friends with, or sort of suck up to politicians and sort of just try to get in and get influence and get roles and positions to make yourself either look good or feel good, or because you think it's somehow important to have power. Right. Now, I have adopted, and I noticed the greatest problem the party used to be, and the GRA is fighting for what I'm describing, which is we want the people to be empowered. We want the general Republican public to know what's going on, to understand why things like gun freedom, being able to have a gun to defend yourself, having lower taxes, pro-life, less regulations, why those things are good for society. We want people to know that. We want people to know which politicians are standing by that. And we want people to be effective in getting those people into office and those policies into law. That's what we want to see happen. And there are a lot of people who are much more concerned with sort of their own personal connections. And I think that happens as a function of time. But to your point about the seniority system, I mean, the only party office I'm running for this cycle is to be on the state committee for my district, down in the 4th district. But I mean, I'm ready with a speech. I'm ready to defend what I've done for the past 2 years and to point out, like, hey, I educate people. I'm out there letting people know to be involved. I'm president of the Republican Assembly. Like, I'm a grassroots guy. Like, please vote for me. Right. I don't think I'm entitled to anything because I've been involved. I don't think my connections mean I should be involved. What I do means I'm automatically in. It comes down to who is running, who is going to do the job the best and educate and inform people. And I think a lot of people don't see it that way. They see it as a personal affront if someone's running against them. They see it as an insult, and then they see it as, then of course there are political industry people, the establishment, who want to divide people. They want to cater to that mindset because think about it. They're going to try to be friends with those in power because they make money off of it. So because of that, they don't want there to be change.
Right.
They will support who is in power, and they will do all sorts of divisive things to make that happen. They will try to divide people. They'll play people against each other. I mean, we've had people attack the GRA that claim to be grassroots, going to be like, "Oh no, how dare the GRA endorse this person?" I'm like, the GRA endorses people not because of me. Our members endorse. It takes a 2/3 vote of members within an area to endorse. I stay unbiased. I have to run the meetings. So it's an interesting thing when people attack the GRA because they're essentially attacking the grassroots.
Right.
And when they do that, I always wonder to myself, what's your angle? What's your take? Who are you friends with? Where's the money coming from? And just about 99% of the time, there's always an answer to that question.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I do a lot of research and I watch a lot of things. And again, this is no bearing on you or anything. What I'm trying to say is I have listened to all the criticism. I have looked at every which way of things. To me, from what I see, because let me just back up and say this. If there was a mental hospital, I should have checked myself in a long time ago because you have to be a little mental to be doing what I'm doing here, okay? Especially politics is crazy because I'm not looking for nothing. I'm just trying to change things. But I have seen the Freedom Caucus stand more firm on anything in government than I've ever seen. I've seen the GRA try to represent by the body of the people more than any other organization out there. So, I've looked at it every which way, and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. So kudos that because I truly believe that you guys try to play it as fair as absolutely possible. So, yeah, man. But yeah, I want one more caveat before we move on to the convention, but we keep bringing up money, money, money. So our system is a complex system. It's almost like our tax systems. Everything seems to be designed where I'm sort of like a point A to point B person, right? But there is no point A to point B. You have to literally jump to Z, F, and L and Q before you get to point B. And it seems like every aspect of politics is set up that way. Do you agree with that?
100%. I mean, if you don't follow the networks, it won't make much sense. And then people have to resort to who they know, who they trust, and a very small circle, which can be frankly easily manipulated.
Right.
That's part of the point of the Republican assemblies, the GRA and others, is to make sure that people know each other and know these networks. Because, I mean, it's easy to Google this. Politics is a billion-dollar industry. When they talk about $1 billion being spent to support Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, people are making $1 billion somewhere off of that.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking these people that work in politics are just like you and me, they're trustworthy, they need to follow some set of moral code. You need to remember how they feed their families is tied to the money in politics and them winning and having good results. Wow. So it is not like your neighbors and friends. I mean, if you're involved in the party with other unpaid activists, like most of the people in the GRA, the people that you personally bring out, that's great. That's a good group to be tied in with and trust and work with. But when you start getting random emails from people saying that, I'm Tea Party or I'm grassroots, and it's wait a second, didn't you make money off of this? You need to be asking yourself about the source. I mean, there have been efforts to try to avoid information getting out to people or misinformation getting out to people. And my favorite is people saying, well, you can't vote for this person or you shouldn't vote for this person because they're friends with this other person. And it's that's just blind manipulation. That's not a useful metric. I mean, that's why we work at, the Georgia Republican Assembly. like GeorgiaRA.com, we're going to have a vetting report out on the candidates running for state party office. That's not the district conventions right now, but we have a team working on one for state. We'll have an endorsing convention on May 10th. Like we try to uncover those networks that you're describing so that people know point A to point B to point C, which is oftentimes hard to uncover because, I mean, there is so much money, there are so many interests, there's so many networks of people making money off of it that it is it's difficult to follow. I mean, especially if you haven't seen something like in 2011 when the governor's staff mostly were elected. A lot of them were elected as state delegates trying to replace the state party chair that got him elected.
Right.
Like his staffers showed up as state delegates to try to get his hand-picked person in to replace the person that was more grassroots that had got him there. I mean,
yes.
It's a lot of this is knowing the history without getting entitled.
100%. And that's why you should give, send, go to Small Town Underground, because you're not going to find this kind of fire anywhere. All right. This is fire. This is great. We're not even on topic yet. And you're 100% on the ball. So absolutely. Boy, I can't wait for the comments. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change it up a bit. And let's say we're just going to look at a convention day. You can pick either state or district, however. Let's just walk the people through. We got a lot of new people that are going to be watching, and they have zero idea. So, you get up in the morning. Let's start from there.
All right. So I'll start with district, and then you can have me back on if state comes up, because state's a 2-day convention.
I'd love to. Okay.
People love district. We could go to state, but
sure.
District, you need to be at the location by 10 a.m. registered. You need to be in the line for registration. Show up at 9 o'clock. Show up at 9:30. Do not try to be there right at 10. Why? Because if you're there at 10 o'clock, you are late. You will not be let in. They will bar the door. You can't get in. That's part of the state convention call, which can be found online. I've sent out an email about it, but these conventions are governed by a document called the call, and you have to be there by 10. So you show up, get checked in before 10. If you're an alternate, you might get moved up to be delegate, so show up if you're an alternate. If you're a delegate, you're automatically, like at that point after you're checked in, you get to vote. After you're checked in, you are allowed to potentially walk outside, walk back in after you already have your badge and credentials, but I would suggest not doing that unless it's an emergency, simply because voting may happen. Once you're checked in, there may be some ceremonies and speakers and such, but what's going on during that time is likely the Credentials Committee, which is a group that was appointed by the current leadership, is checking how many voters are there, how many delegates like you are there from the various counties that make up the district. There will eventually be a credentials report. Once that credentials report comes out that says how many people are there, that's when business can start. That's the important time right then.
Okay.
Because as soon as that happens, there's going to be a motion to adopt either convention rules or the agenda. Now, a lot of places are going to try to rush through this.
Okay.
And a lot of people will think this is not a big deal. This is the most important part of the convention, is right then, after the credentials report comes up and they start to talk about agendas or convention rules. When someone moves to pass that, you need to have already read the convention rules that were being proposed, because these are all proposed convention rules and proposed agenda at the time that was made by people outside of the convention.
Right.
When those get brought up, the agenda sets the order of business. There may be other things written on it, so you need to have read it ahead of time. If someone tries to pass an agenda and you haven't seen it, read it, or know what's in it, you need to get up and say, point of inquiry, where's the agenda? Or you could say, point of order, we don't have the agenda, and make sure to just stop the proceedings. And you could say, move to recess for 5 minutes so we could read the agenda if people didn't have one. But you need to have read it, because that sets the order of business for the rest of the day.
And I want to interject one thing there. When you say point of order, point of inquiry, for a lot of the new people, and we're trying to spread this around, this is a Robert's Rules of Order. This is the way these businesses are conducted. So you're going to hear Alex talk a lot about point of order, point of inquiry, point of interest. Those are all Robert's Rules of Order, and that's how you conduct this. So
Yeah, this book right here is Robert's Rules of Order. This is the most recent edition, 12th edition. It is gigantic. It is a lot of pages, like 500 plus pages. That book is the governing after the convention call, which is the most important thing. You have the party rules and Robert's Rules of Order.
okay,
After Robert's Rules of Order, and this is where I was mentioning convention rules. So Robert's Rules of Order is a book that is defined fair parliamentary procedure for many, 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 many years. It sets it so that everyone, like the people have a right to speak, the delegates have a right to speak, but that, a minority's voice can be heard. The majority wins, but a minority gets to debate and try to persuade people. That is how it is set up. So convention rules are something that you, the body that is there, the delegates that are there, or the alternates that are become delegates, you get to decide whether or not to change those rules.
okay,
Now, I'm going to rewind slightly. When the credentials report comes out, if alternates need to become delegates, like if there are empty delegate slots,
yes.
your county delegates get together and decide on a method of elevating alternates to become delegates.
Okay.
If there's more empty slots than there are alternates, all the alternates just get moved up.
Okay.
But if you can only move up some alternates, your county at that district convention, your delegates get together and decide on the procedure for moving them up. Do not just sit there and let the chairman pick, unless you really trust your chairman. Like you want to caucus and say, I want these moved up. This is how. So anyway, convention rules come up right after that.
Okay.
The convention rules almost certainly limit what you can do compared to Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
Now, sometimes those things can be good. For example, Robert's Rules of Order, if you have 3 people or 4 people running for district chair or state committee, if you just go by Robert's rules, you'll have a vote, and let's say everyone gets about 25%. The chairman will say, okay, everybody got 25% in this 4-person race. Let's do another ballot. And then you'll have another election with those 4 people. And you'll keep doing it until someone gets 50% because everyone else got tired and left or quit or changed their minds or whatever else. That can obviously be very inefficient. It can drag out a convention. People can and have used that to drag out conventions. So a convention rule, for example, that says if no one gets 50% on the first round, the person with the lowest number of votes will drop, is a perfectly good convention rule, in my opinion.
Sure.
It allows for it to then become 3, then become 2, then become 1. It's sort of like a runoff system that you would see otherwise, and that can be a good one. So that's a situation of a good convention rule. A bad convention rule would be it takes a 2/3 vote to appeal the decision of the chair. Because according to Robert's rules, it only takes a majority. Another thing would be for example, you can only run for office if you've applied to the nominations committee, or no nominations are allowed from the floor, or elections will be by slate. Those things make it so that it is much more difficult if you or someone like you wanted to run for party office for you to get up and run for office, because Robert's rules would allow you to do that. Right. So if those type of convention rules are in there, or if it says like you can't have resolutions from the floor, or resolutions must have been submitted in advance, you'll want to get up and move to amend the convention rules right then. Right. Like when someone moves to adopt them, you need to get up and object and say I move to amend these, or you get up and say I have debate, and you state why it's bad. You repeat the things I'm saying. You repeat other things that you could think of, talking about how this takes away the rights of delegates. We're here to do the business. This makes it so we can't do the business. We're just a rubber stamp. This rule needs to fail. Now, the amendment will likely succeed if you move to amend it, someone seconds it, you can argue about it, then you vote to amend the convention rules, so that way you can keep the good ones and lose the bad ones. But let's say that they don't get amended. it takes a 2/3 vote to pass convention rules that limit your rights like that.
Okay.
So all you need to do is convince 1/3 of the people to vote no, and then you end up going to Robert's rules, which is a fair system.
Gotcha.
So, and they may holler and say, well, this will make us take all day. Well, that's because they, the establishment, refuse to have convention rules.
Gotcha.
And the rule I mentioned about appealing the decision of the chair, that's something where, and this is getting a little advanced, but right after credentials, there may be a motion to appoint or elect a convention chair.
Okay.
Now, there are not a lot of people that are really good with Robert's rules to run a convention. However, if the person that the current leadership is wanting to chair the convention is bad, meaning they're going to bully people or ignore motions or do things that are bad, you'll want to make sure someone else runs against them. That takes some pre-planning. You may want to coordinate with GRA members in your area and others just to work that out, because it takes a majority vote to elect a convention chair, and usually whoever is selected ahead of time is going to get it unless you have a strong organization to elect someone else. But let's say whoever's elected does a bad job on a ruling, like they say something like, oh no, it only takes a majority vote to pass convention rules. Well, you can get up and say, point of order, it takes a 2/3 vote. Points of order means that someone's breaking the rules, either the chair or someone else.
Okay.
When that happens, you have to say point of order.
Right.
That will have the chairman then have to make a ruling on if you're right or not. If the chairman says no, it only takes a half, and it takes 2/3, like you do right now for passing the full convention rules, you could then say, I appeal the decision of the chair, which means that you are disagreeing with the chair. And according to Robert's rules, it only takes a majority vote to override the chair.
Oh, wow.
It takes
Okay.
50%, as long as you didn't pass a convention rule that raised that number. So that's why when I say the most important part is at the convention rules and the agenda,
sure,
it's because it really, really, really is. Like, that is the key point. If you aren't paying attention to that and you aren't debating and engaged,
right,
the whole convention could be changed just that bit.
It's based on the rules. Now, I want to also ask this question. So how soon should you be able to get a copy of those rules from any given convention? Because I've seen to where I didn't get the rules until I was there, at that morning. So,
And that's a great question, and I'll tell you the way it often works. So oftentimes those proposed convention rules, you won't see them until the day of. Now, if you know somebody on the district, like the temporary or the interim rules committee, they may get them to you ahead of time. Some districts may try to distribute them ahead of time.
Right.
I know that when I was on the state rules committee last year, we actually debated what they would be and amended some of them, and we got them out a day in advance, which is honestly sort of unheard of because historically you only get them the day of.
Gotcha.
So being organized, it's almost good to have and you can have your own set of proposed convention rules and walk in and move to amend theirs by replacing them with yours. I've created a nice little list of some rules that I think are sort of basic and fair, but you can walk in with your own set and argue why their set should be amended into yours, which it could be a strong move. But it all just depends on your district. It depends on what the rules are. But these rules can dictate the outcome of the convention. And if you are there and you see someone else arguing over the rules, and all else being equal, you should probably side with the person fighting over the rules, because they're probably fighting to help you.
Exactly.
In all likelihood.
The bottom line is you probably need a yellow highlighter and maybe a magic marker and make it ready to make notes that morning with all of your peers around you.
Yeah. I mean, it pays to be organized. And that's the thing that's so tough about it, is that, you may be new to this. You may not have gone to many conventions. You may find this to be sort of contentious. But remember, you're a delegate to that convention, and you aren't there just for you.
Right.
You're there to represent other Republicans who aren't there, that don't even know the party exists.
Right,
and you want to help make the party more relevant, more powerful, make it so the party represents the people and more people turn out. So when this stuff happens, like how the rules are is going to dictate how the elections come out. It's going to dictate, does the party take a stand against, for example, a Speaker of the House who's fine with violating a state senator's constitutional rights? Is the Republican Party okay with the leadership committees that Kemp ran through before that have all this money now that are being used to sort of threaten and cajole other Republican elected officials to do their bidding?
That's right.
Is the local party in favor of election integrity and wants to see things done in the Capitol? Like, are you going to take stance on that? And the way you do that is through voting on resolutions. But if the convention rules make it difficult to vote on resolutions, you're not doing that. And you won't know anything about that until well after the convention rules. So you have to get those rules right. You have to make sure they aren't restricting your right to bring up business during the rest of the convention.
Gotcha. Very, very important information. I hope everybody's out there listening, because you have what I've seen, you've got a very, very short window into those rules. All right. So let's say we've adopted those rules, everybody's happy. They've got the 2/3 majority. What do you do next?
All right. Well, once the convention rules are passed, next up will be whatever's next on the agenda. So whatever agenda you pass in that order should be the next thing going on the agenda. Now, it may be the election of officers. If it's the election of officers, what will happen is a committee will likely come out called the Nominations Committee. Now, that Nominations Committee, there was an interim one appointed ahead of time by whoever the past leadership was. The convention chair gets elected. That convention chair appoints those committees, which were probably the exact same as the interim ones. To be on those committees, you have to have been a delegate to the convention, not an alternate, not a guest, but you have to be a delegate. But those committees, which were, again, approved by the past leadership, are going to get up and say anywhere from, here's everyone who ran for office, they're all in nomination, who submitted stuff in advance, or, and a lot of places do this, especially more establishment ones, they will get up and say, here's the 3, 4, 5 people that we think should be elected. And this was after all of us who you all know very well, we all met very carefully together. We considered everyone very, very strongly. We looked at their applications. We looked at their resumes. We looked for the best people. And here are the 5 or however many that we want to elect. They will give a lot of flowery, strong language at a time about how they did such a strong, good job to look up who these are, and then they will proceed to put up the 5 people that they essentially are friends with, or the past leadership was friends with, and want to be in there. But they'll make it sound as if it was the best, most well-reasoned decision ever, and that's it. And then there may be, at that point, there may be a motion to just elect them, or a motion to adopt that report. If either of those motions come up, if you vote yes on it, what that means is that those people are elected and no one else is going to get to run.
Wow.
So what you need to do is, one, you need to get up and move to nominate people from the floor immediately if someone else is running or if you're trying to run yourself. Second, so in what you do is you would say, I move to nominate so-and-so. Like, you just get up and say that at a microphone. The other thing you can do, and this is where it's paying it forward. We're here today to do education. Here's the way you pay it forward. One thing that you can do, so points of order we already talked about. That's when someone's breaking the rules. You bring up an issue, get a ruling from the chair. You can appeal it if it's not what you think's right. So the other critical thing to know is something called a point of inquiry. That's something else that can be brought up at any time, just like a point of order. But a point of inquiry is where you ask the chairman something. So a good question to ask is point of inquiry. You get the attention. And then you say, point of inquiry, how do I blank? How do I do the thing I want to do? Or how do I, if this passes, will I be able to do blank? and you ask questions like that. For example, if we pass this report, will I be able to nominate anyone from the floor? Or how do we nominate people from the floor? Or if, like, what would this motion currently pending mean we can't nominate people from the floor? So the point being that you ask that question, get the chairman on record on it, and keep asking if he or she is evasive.
Gotcha.
But you get him or her to admit what is about to happen. Because then other people there who don't know the procedure, that may not have listened to this program, that may not have read anything about it, who are thinking, well, I should just go along with the people on the stage. The second that question's answered, they will realize, wait a second, I don't want to vote for this, and they're trying to pull one on me. And if the chair starts being evasive, that will make it even worse. Conventions have been turned around completely, like regarding the momentum of them and who wins, because someone gets up and made a point of inquiry saying, hey, does this happen? And the chairman started being combative and like arguing with the person that's asking the question. And while that may be awkward for you, it turns the rest of the room against the chair.
Wow.
Any sort of bias towards just going along with it goes out the window when you start asking very simple, direct, but persuasive questions like that.
Gotcha.
So you make sure you know what you're voting on before you vote on it.
Okay.
Like, even if you really don't know what's going on, just say point of inquiry, what are we voting on? What's the effect of this? Like, you can ask questions to inform people.
Okay.
So you'll have that happen with the elections. Nominations committee report is the election. So when you hear nominations committee report, that's when they're electing people, both as district officers, again, the district chair, and then the other officers, and then state committee members.
Okay.
The critical things that help run the state party are the district chairs and the state committee members.
Okay.
And you definitely want to make sure each and every one of those people is a good grassroots, anti-establishment, GRA type person.
Yes.
That's what you want in those positions. And if someone's there that isn't one of those, raise your hand and move to run against them.
Gotcha.
Like, make sure that happens.
Okay. Absolutely. Wow, this is a lot of information. So I hope everybody out there this is gonna be blasted all over the place, because you're gonna have to learn some Robert's rules, and we're gonna get through this together. So I'm nervous myself, Alex, because I've been to the off year ones where it's very procedural and you're not looking for a vote. This is going to be a game changer this year. We're gonna have a lot of voting and a lot of plotting, a lot of things going into this. So very good. So. All right. So we're at the point now where you're electing officers. So let's just say that we have the slate and we've elected our officers. What happens next?
So after the officers, probably next on the agenda will either be resolutions or rule changes. Rule changes are changes to the party rules, which would be, the committee would come forth with, here are the proposed rule changes. Most conventions don't really change the rules there, but if they do, you'll definitely want to say, point of inquiry, what are the rules? If you want to see the rules changed, you definitely want to make a motion when the rules committee report comes out and say, well, I move that we pass this rule change. Not many people are really focused on district rule changes.
Right. Now, and let me clarify, you're talking about rule changes to the actual district GOP rules, right? Not convention rules or anything. These are things that people have written into a rules committee, and they're going to propose them, correct?
Yes, and these, and generally speaking, these are changes to the party rules.
Okay.
Those are the rules that actually set out how many officers there are, the names of the officer positions, any other restrictions in the district. Like, some districts have party rules that say that you can only have, districts are allocated state committee members based on what district they're in, the number of Republican voters in that district.
Okay.
Some district party rules say that one county gets 4 people to the state committee and the other gets 6. Like, if there are 10 state committee people in 2 counties, the district party rules may say that, one county only has 4, the only one has 6 of the 10. Okay. Others don't have that. You definitely want to know ahead of time if there is that restriction, because you may want to change those party rules before elections if there is an issue where you need more or less people from one county, because the districts are made up of people from multiple counties.
Gotcha.
But the resolutions are another critical part of this,
Yes.
because this, and I'm going to mention briefly state, you can submit state resolutions to be considered by the state convention anytime up to the deadline, which is early May, and it doesn't matter whether or not they were voted on in district or not. But it is very useful if you can get a district party to pass a resolution urging something.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, I put out a number of proposed resolutions I hope people bring up regarding qualifying Brad Raffensperger, qualifying John Burns, qualifying anyone who wants to make elections nonpartisan and thereby cut off money for the party, or and a resolution supporting Senator Colton Moore's Anti-Corruption Act, which would end the leadership committees and end governments paying for lobbyists using your money to lobby the government, which is something that currently exists, which I think should appall anyone listening, that the government is paying lobbyists to lobby other parts of the government. Because you obviously don't have anyone paid to lobby for you. So, so those resolutions are very notable. And the issue is that, and they are suggests that the resolutions are urging the state GOP to take these actions, like banning people from qualifying.
Right.
Well, if your district passes it, that will be a big deal. Because of that, the establishment is not going to want to hear that debated. They aren't going to want to see it passed. They aren't going to want any of it to occur. So it is on you to, one, since they may try to say, well, there's a deadline on submissions, submit those resolutions as soon as possible to the resolutions committee. Because again, there will be a committee that will have, allegedly put in all this time and effort and blah, blah, blah about, looking at the resolutions, and they are only going to propose some.
Right. They don't propose all. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And they quite likely won't propose yours if there's something like I'm describing. They might propose something honoring somebody who's been involved in the party. They might propose something, praising a politician. But if it's about like calling one out or urging the state GOP to condemn someone or not qualify them, that will, in a lot of cases, not come out from the resolutions committee. So what do you do if the resolutions committee is up there and they don't put out your resolution? Well, what you do, assuming you don't have convention rules that upheld a deadline for submissions, what you do is you get up and you say, well, I move to adopt this resolution. And you have copies, a copy or multiple copies of the resolution you want to propose.
From the floor, right?
And you put it out there on the floor and you get it debated. If they say, if there is, or if it's been submitted to the resolutions committee, you could also make a motion to discharge the resolution you had submitted to them from the committee. You would say, well, I move to discharge this resolution from the committee.
Okay.
That does the same thing. It may be better in order depending on if the resolution was submitted ahead of time or not. But then you get to debate that. You get to say, this is why this should be discharged from committee. This is why we should pass it. And it takes a majority vote to pass, assuming you pass, good convention rules or no convention rules affecting resolutions.
Gotcha.
So that's where the meat comes in, where you can argue for things like commending Colton Moore or condemning John Burns or urging the state GOP to not allow Burns to qualify for office as a Republican again.
Right.
Like those things can all be debated then, assuming you had good convention rules and you have the resolution there with you. Most convention bodies are going to love resolutions actually calling out these people, and you just need a few people to speak in favor.
Right. Okay. Very good. I know there's a lot of contention on resolutions. I've watched this long enough where, and I know we definitely want to bring you back for the state convention. I know that's a whole other animal, but very hard to get resolutions passed in this level.
And one thing to really realize too, because you about resolutions, is that you said they can be contentious. The irony, and this is something one of my colleagues in the California Republican Assembly pointed out, is that a lot of times the people who are talking the most, it's just a few people that are opposed that are talking a lot, while like 70 or 80% of the group are in favor of it. But like a good 20% can hold it up by spending a lot of time talking. So make sure the people in favor get up and say things.
Okay.
And also, if you think you have it, move to call the question to move things along, because move to call the question means to end debate.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
you could move it along that way. You also can make the chairman enforce the rule that speakers should only speak twice on a motion, and they aren't supposed to speak for over 10 minutes. That's what Robert's rule says.
Okay.
So you can make a point of order if the chairman is like letting someone else talk.
Right.
And the chairman shouldn't be engaging in debate either. If the chairman's up there saying, we don't want to do this, you need to get say point of order. The chairman's supposed to be unbiased. If the chairman's going to talk, he needs to turn it over to someone else. Like, the chairman should not be arguing with you about any of these. And in some conventions, they'll try to.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Yeah, this is a lot to unpack. We'll definitely be keeping up with this. I'm planning on going back and watching this 2 or 3 times, and I want to be ready. So we get to the resolutions. What else is left after that? You've pretty much done most everything.
Yeah, that's about it at that point. I mean, you've done the you've done the elections, you've done rules, you've done resolutions. At that point, you're just about done. Now, one thing that can be done with the agenda is they will oftentimes put resolutions at the end.
Yes.
Now, this is twofold.
Okay.
Well, and I'm not saying this is their intent, but it definitely is the effect. If you have resolutions at the end, you don't know what the people running for office believe on the resolutions before you elect them. So if you have the resolutions earlier, you know what they believe on things if they get on a microphone or how they vote on it. So that's one key point.
So
Another key.
Could you vote while when you're voting on the rules? Could you amend that the resolutions be brought up before the elections?
You would do that to amend the agenda. When the agenda gets proposed, you would move to amend the agenda by moving the resolutions earlier if you want to make sure that's done.
Okay.
The second thing, and also convention rules also dictate voting methods. Like, do you use ballot?
Oh,
do you
yes.
do you do standing counted votes? All of that's convention rules. Okay. So make sure to pay attention to that. But the other thing is that you can also, if you want to in the convention rules, change quorum. According to Robert's rules, quorum is a majority of the people who have checked in. So if the convention goes all day, a lot of people may decide to leave. And I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, but you need to be prepared to be at that convention until 6 p.m.,
Agreed.
7 p.m., 8 p.m. I'm not saying it'll take that long, but bring snacks. Make sure there's childcare if you have kids at home. Don't plan anything concrete for the rest of the day. Because one tactic that can be used by anybody is to slow things down to make it take longer.
Yeah.
If things take longer and the other side has gotten their people to be ready to stay, they may want you to leave so they can get their candidates elected, or so that they lose quorum. And if you lose quorum by the time you get to resolutions, they don't get voted on. So one way to counter that, though, partially, is if you know that you're going to stay, and a lot of anti-establishment people will, and that's one thing that I do at every single Robert's Rules training, is tell everyone, be prepared to be there all day.
Right.
So that is a good thing to do. What you can do is you can pass convention rules that lower quorum below 50%. You can say quorum is however many delegates are still present while there's still business pending. You can set it at 25%. You can set it at 20%. This is something that we realize in the fact that they keep killing resolutions at state convention by losing quorum, is that if you set quorum lower at the beginning, then you can stay there as late as you want to debate resolutions. And generally speaking, usually our people will stay longer. The grassroots people will stay longer. So you may want to do a convention rule doing that. But once all those are done, nominations, rules, and resolutions, or at the point you lose quorum, then a motion to adjourn's in order. Or if you lose quorum, the meeting just ends.
Wow. Okay. So
you definitely want to have that in mind on the front end.
So I'm just in my head. See, I've watched a lot of this on the signal groups and stuff. So basically, that's one of their tactics. They put them resolution on the end until they lose quorum, and once you lose quorum, that is it. They can adjourn, right?
Yeah. Once you lose quorum, it's over.
Wow.
Now, no one should leave until it's actually officially declared over. But if quorum is 50, if quorum is unchanged from Robert's Rules, and you're there at 5 o'clock, and a lot of people leave right when elections are done, which is why a lot of people show up. A lot of the establishment people just show up to elect their people and leave. They don't want to be there all day because they find resolutions to just not matter. And to the extent they matter, they just want them all dead so that the party doesn't take a stand on anything. Because, this loops back to what I was saying earlier. The establishment doesn't want the party to have power. They don't want us to be making a stand or making positions or anything because it makes it uncomfortable for the people that they make money from or that they're friends with that make money off of it. That's why they don't want the party to do anything except sit there and be quiet. They don't want you involved advocating for pro-gun, pro-life, limited government, lower taxes. I mean, that they don't want that coming out of the party. They want you to just elect their people, go away, and help the establishment get elected in the general. They don't want you to take sides in primaries. That's why they hate the GRA. We're the only group that takes sides in primaries, really. So
absolutely. That is, yes. Folks, be prepared to stay all day. I mean, wow.
Bring snacks. Yeah. Bring snacks. Bring water.
Wow. Okay, so basically what we've just covered is going to be the upcoming kind of your district convention. Mind you, you're going to want to familiarize yourself with Robert's rules. You're going to need to understand that the agenda is one of the most important things that you've got to pay attention to. And you're going to want to be there all day. And then some of this stuff may be different. You're going to have to really, really coordinate. But cool.
Yeah. Look, and that's the other thing. Look for people with GRA name badges.
That's right.
Help. I mean, I can't promise that every one of our over 1,000 members is going to be super helpful or is 100% there. But I would say if you don't see any allies, look for some name badges. GRA name badges. And if you are a GRA member, wear your name badge so other people can find you and help coordinate. It is, I mean, talk to people, get to know them. I mean, even if you don't see name badges, try to find some people who look like they may be on the side of accountability.
Absolutely. We get easier and easier to spot. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start going through comments. That was outstanding, a lot of information, so we're going to have to watch it again. One question came earlier. Beth McCure had this to say, and this might be for Stakeovich, I don't know, but she said, what do you do when they turn the microphones off?
So that is something that happened at state convention, and Beth, I don't know if she remembers me, I guess it was 2 years ago when what was his name? I'm drawing a blank. Well, it wasn't Barry, was it? Do you remember?
I wasn't there, but I was involved in the chats, and that was blowing my mind. So I do remember the microphones getting cut off.
So the convention chair that year, was he was doing the resolutions all wrong. Not resolutions, he was doing motions all wrong. He was like, are there any amendments? And he took 5 amendments, didn't allow debate on any of them, and then just voted to have them all fail even without counting the vote, and then was cutting off mics. I mean, I was having to go up and scream at the stage to get his attention because he shut off the mics. I mean, it was very bad. But what do in a convention hall like that? I mean, if you are rising, so they can cut off your mic if you are not speaking on something in order. You have to be recognized and speaking on something. Now, certain things like points of order and point of inquiry and point of parliamentary procedure and point of personal privilege, those points, those things that you're being recognized for take precedence.
Okay.
Meaning that pretty much unless a vote is currently in process of happening, they have to recognize you for a point of order or point of inquiry.
Okay.
Because a district convention is so much smaller, you definitely should go in front of the room, raise your hand, wave it around, and yell point of inquiry or point of order. Points of inquiry seem a little less divisive and can be more effective because a point of inquiry of point of inquiry, are we not in the middle of debate and you just shut off this microphone? Or point of privilege, please leave on the microphones or something like that. That is a something you can do to let people know you are being cut off.
Right.
If they are breaking the rules and doing it, you'll want to make a point of order saying this violates Robert's rules or the call or something else and say what it is. And you need to be concise so that you don't get out of order. You have to say, point of order, this is a rule being broken,
Right.
and then throw in whatever else you can about how like it's taking away the rights of everyone else, because the point is not for you to make your point. The point is to make sure everyone else in the audience is on your side, and if they cheat, you can appeal it further up to state or elsewhere. So if they do that, you make a point of order. If they're doing something really horrible, like not counting the votes accurately, you appeal. And if the point of order they handle poorly, you appeal the decision of the chair. You get a majority vote on that. If they don't count the votes or cheat there, you bring another point of order. Eventually, you could move to vacate the chair or replace the chair. But you only want to do that if it gets really bad. But it's and if that happens, you want to do it so there's a record of it, and you probably want it recorded somehow so that there's evidence of what happened, so that you can appeal it or get some attention on the corruption, and people can be called out later.
Gotcha.
I mean, I have been the victim of numerous conventions where there's cheating, and I mean, you just have to have a record of it, and you have to be willing to both appeal and just use it to call out people in the future. I mean,
oh yeah, I've heard things can get out of hand very, very quickly at one of these. So
they can. And remember, you want to look good. So like if you are appealing, you're arguing, remember, you are not only trying to get the people in the room on your side, but to also have a good, like, make sure that when you're appealing it, or if the video goes out, that you look like you're trying to help the people be involved, which is what you are doing, which is what we are doing.
Right.
You don't want to accuse everyone in the room of being corrupt. You want to be focused on the chairman doing something that's wrong or unethical, and that's what you have to stay focused on, because if you lose the crowd, you lose the convention.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Carol Streeter, good to see you. Lisa Adams in the house. Charles Stoker. Let's see. Jan Sheffield, good to see you. Renee Perry Baker, good to see you. Noreen Canner, good to see you. Andy Soha is in here. And Noreen says, let's see. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Noreen's running. We need to get Noreen on the show too. Charles says you are approachable. He says when a candidate says unity, he doesn't want to be criticized. All right. Let's see. Oh Lord, Charles is doing a lot of points of inquiries here, points of orders. So I wouldn't have it any other way. Jan Brendan Sheffield says, how did Sophia win your endorsement but not the seat? I don't know if you want to comment on that or not.
I would actually love to comment on that.
Yeah, sure.
So the thing is, when you join the GRA, you are a member of the statewide organization, and then you can form a local county chapter if you have enough people in your county. Cobb County has a lot of GRA members, and they're very involved in the party, involved in leadership, have been involved. So what we do for local party races, like the Cobb County GOP race, the Cobb County RA held an endorsing convention, since they're the people who know her the best, but know the whole area the best. They looked at the candidates, know the sort of networks that you talked about. They know what's going on there. So they hold a convention and they vote on who to endorse. And it takes, just like with the state RA, it takes a 2/3 vote to endorse someone. So the Cobb RA endorsed in that race. Now, shockingly, and this was sort of something new, but I mean, there was someone out of, I don't know where she's even out of anymore, but someone who claimed to be grassroots, someone named Debbie Dooley, who says she's Tea Party, but I mean, ultimately she, I think, ended up at some point being paid for Tea Party work, is my understanding anyway. And, the tens of thousands of people in the state that were organized in the Tea Party, then magically they sort of dissipated, which is one of my greatest criticisms of, and it's actually an example of what happens with the intrinsic corruption when people start getting paid for politics.
Right.
You have 10,000 plus grassroots people that could easily have taken over and improved the GOP in Georgia.
Right.
And because, there's only about 1,600, 1,800 delegates to the state convention. So 10,000 people could have easily reformed the GOP back in 2010.
Right.
But because certain people started caring about their connections or their jobs, like running the Tea Party, then all of a sudden you have You don't have that anymore, but you have 2 or 3 people making money off of it.
Right.
So, she was sending out like email blasts, because that's all I think she has now is emails, blasting out to the state saying that the GRA endorsed candidate was horrible and to elect someone else that I think was tied in with another network around the state. She was also attacking the GRA at the time. I mean, she definitely supported a lobbyist who gave money to Democrats as party chairman in 2017 when I was running, and 2 other people were running.
Right.
So she could have supported anyone other than the lobbyist who was giving money to Democrats, but she didn't. And then the party suffered for it. So, I mean, you have that attack going out statewide to a bunch of people not in Cobb County. And you have some other people, I think, followed along with it due to allegations regarding the GRA endorsed candidates' religious beliefs. I mean, one of our principles is just the idea that our country has a Judeo-Christian foundation. But again, the Cobb RA members endorsed Sophia. So they obviously thought she was the best candidate.
And we got to remember, this was a slate of people. This wasn't just Sophia Farouk. This was an entire slate of people here.
Yeah, and and that's the thing, is the people endorsing one of the other slates, even though some of them may have been grassroots, some of the people on there absolutely hate the grassroots. So I think some of that was some internal party maneuvering. A number of like establishment people came back out of the woodwork to be involved in Cobb. I think that some of it is due to some networks being really like, I'm trying to think of the right word here, but the establishment is being, in this election cycle, really Machiavellian and a little bit evil in what they're doing. And I don't say that lightly, because what's going on is, for example, there was a rumor, and I don't know if it's true or not. I didn't pay that much attention to how Cobb made their decision, but I definitely did hear that some people were saying that Sophia was supporting David Cross. And they were saying that because of that, that's why there was an effort to attack Sophia, even though that doesn't mean anything. Like if you are a county officer that has a difference of opinion on who should be state party chair, that is no reason for people who support the other state party chair candidate, Josh McCoon, to be vindictive towards people who may just disagree on that. That actually divides the grassroots. And I think 100%. That the people advocating that are establishment people that are advising and sort of infiltrating and whispering in the ears of anti-establishment people, saying like, oh no, if you support McCoon, you have to be against anyone who supports David Cross. And that is ridiculous. It also, though, helps the political establishment, because they don't want you and me and anybody new to the party to have any influence. They want to have influence over the anti-establishment leaders or people in positions. They want that relationship to matter, and they don't want anyone else to move up other than people that they have control and influence over. So it's a very sad thing. And where I stand on it is, it's very simple, and this is my position. Support who the GRA endorses at our statewide convention if we endorse anyone. If we don't, read the vetting report we put out, which cuts through all of the chatter and the BS and the people out there trying to say, well, this person's really evil and they did this, and this person's going to destroy the party, and this person did this corrupt thing. Like, we are going to put out a report just like we did 2 years ago, which is still on our website from 2 years ago. We still stand by the objective report we put out. Read the report and make up your mind. But don't buy into this, buy into this thing where people who were anti-establishment a year ago are suddenly establishment because they support a candidate that you don't like. And I've seen it both ways. They've said like, well, you're a McCoon supporter, you're establishment. No. Just like if you're a Cross supporter, that doesn't mean that you're like evil and destroying things. No. Like just we need, the anti-establishment people need to work together, and there are some people trying to divide us. And I think that's the answer to the question of what happened in Cobb, is that you have some people tied in with various networks around the state that that got involved and demonized someone who is a good volunteer for the Cobb GOP, for the Cobb RA, and even for the Republican assemblies as a whole. And I know that it's, I know it's easy to buy into other things, but I think that's essentially what happened. It was local politics at play,
Yeah.
plus
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of outside influence.
Wow, you just laid it out exactly 100% right. This is the craziest thing that I've ever witnessed. And then I just want to, I have no problem saying this publicly. We did a show on this. Sophia Farouk is a friend of mine. We've worked together a few times. It was so crazy to watch all that unfold. And not because it's information or something that you shouldn't look in, but it was the fact that a week before that, Sophia was just, everybody loves Sophia. And then the minute she decided to step up, as you were saying, the power structure, I'm going to run for the chair position. All of a sudden, boom, it's this huge explosion. Everybody's involved and everybody's the worst person in religion, this and that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And now we're continually seeing this play out exactly like you said. So thank you for that. That was a great freaking answer. And we need to get some people to grow up a little bit. That's a good question, Jan. I appreciate that. And Noreen Cantor says politics is a blood sport. Man, it is. Okay. Charles is required.
Noreen Cantor was on the GRA executive committee for a number of years and did a great job helping us there. And I just wanted to throw that in about Noreen.
Yeah, I met her over at Ron Hooper's luncheon, and she's pretty cool. A lot of people, hey, we'll try to get you on the show, Noreen. I'd like to get as many people on as I can. It's all about education. So, Charles is answering to Beth. He says, "This will go to the next. If the chair is ignoring you, then he is being a tyrant. Consider stopping procedures to replace the chair." Good. All right. This is one thing that a couple people have brought up to me, and maybe this is out of we'll save it for state. But for example, when you're picking a convention chair, if you're running for that position, should you be able to chair the state convention, or should you allow somebody else to? Several people have asked me that question.
What do you mean?
So, for example, people that will talk about David Cross here and talk about Josh McCoon here. And people are saying Josh McCoon shouldn't be able to chair the state convention because he's running for that. Is that normal? Because I don't understand it.
This is going to be a history lesson for a lot of people,
sure.
But it'll be useful. So most of the conventions that I had ever seen, going back to at least as far as I remember, back in 2012. 2012, there was a committee man race. Okay. It was between Randy Evans, who became ambassador to Luxembourg later, Frank Strickland, and they're both attorneys, and they were running for committee man. This was also the year a lot of Ron Paul supporters and Tea Party supporters got involved in the party, and the party broke rules and did everything possible to try to squelch their voice. I remember that rather vividly. And what happened is I ran from the floor for committee man. There was no restriction on running from the floor that year, and that was a good time. But Randy Evans was the convention chair that year, from my recollection, and he won the vote for committee man overwhelmingly on the first ballot. I think he got 60 or 70%. I forget what it was. I remember I came in second place. To the surprise of a lot of people, because all I did was give a speech, and not another soul in the room knew I was running ahead of time.
Right.
Which, it might be a reason why they try passing rules that say you can't just run from the floor, because people are worried about that. But I know he chaired that convention. Randy chaired a lot of conventions over time. A lot of times I think that he was using the rules in a way that were not to support the grassroots. I know in 2012, there was definitely issues with being able to see from the stage, where he said he couldn't see from the stage, but then he claimed he could count the people in the back who were all standing up in a way that was opposed to what the establishment wanted. So, I mean, you had that for a while. And you had, and I wish I could remember the name of that chair from 2 years ago that was so horrible.
I know.
But the point is that
I can't remember either.
Randy, I do not think was pro grassroots. And definitely I think is more establishment leaning. I think the other one was definitely shut things down 2 years ago. I saw Josh McCoon a year ago was chairing the state convention. I will say, and please, David Cross supporters, do not hate me for this. I am not advocating anyone, but he did the best job I had seen since 2009 in chairing a state convention.
Right.
At least by the rules. Now, there may have been things that were done that were somehow wrong or leaning one way or the other. I personally, compared to the other years and seeing, the year prior, mics being, shut down and amendments not being heard and debate not being allowed, and then watching Randy just ignore certain segments of votes in previous years or just trying to push things through so things wouldn't be discussed and debated. Like that was the best I had seen. Now, could it be better? Sure. Is there a rule that requires if you're running for office?
Yeah, I think that's what
the convention.
Right.
No. According to Robert's rules, from my understanding, the way it works is you can't chair the portion that is relevant to you. So when it gets to elections, you should let someone else be chairing it.
Gotcha.
But from a practical matter, I will say the way that, and I've always been impressed by this, is that when Randy Evans chaired a convention, he was usually on stage starting on day one on Friday and was up there all day Saturday being friendly, telling jokes, getting along with people. So then when convention rules and the agenda started, when things got pushed through quickly, people already really liked the convention chair. Like you already had a good rapport because you were already in front of the delegates for about a day and a half. So like you're going to give someone like that a lot of grace, especially if someone runs against them for convention chair or someone goes and tries to amend things and then the chair says, oh, this is out of order or whatever else. Like it is a strategic. So if you're looking for complete fairness, you probably shouldn't chair your own convention.
Okay.
But if you're looking to win and you're following the rules technically, you can chair the convention. You just can't get
share
up
that
and
own part.
share your own election. And,
I see.
Delegates should be aware of that dynamic and make sure they're looking at reasons to vote for someone, not just who's been on stage for the past day.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that was not just a Charles question. I've had 2 or 3 people have asked me that question. I said, yeah, if it comes up, we'll definitely. And he also says you have to think on your feet because they move real fast. And I just side note before we go back. It was my first time in any Signal chats while convention was going on, and I was at work and had really relatively no idea. I'd only been to one convention. I was just a vendor at the time, but I could not believe the chat groups, like how fast everything was moving and and everybody chiming in, and it felt like my head was spinning just sitting in a chair reading it. So it was pretty wild.
That's a really good point, is that when you're at these conventions, since you're spread out, you should get on a text message chat or a Signal chat group with allies that you have coordinated with, be it at district, state, county. Like if you're at a convention, because one thing people forget is, let's say I'm at a convention with all of you great patriots and we're trying to get something done on the convention rules. So if I get up and move to amend the rules by striking something and I talk against it, then I get up again and move to amend the rules and try to strike something. Then I get up again and move to amend and try to strike something. I mean, you may like if you're listening at this point, you may like listening to me talk. I will tell you that in a convention of 200-300 or a state convention of 1,800 people get sick of hearing the same person talk. They start to hate you for it.
Right.
So the point is that you need to coordinate, because this is strategy, right? Like it doesn't matter if you're right. It matters if you lose the convention hall. Right. So I might get up and argue on one of the rule changes, but you need to get up and argue another one. Like you have to get up and do the work and get in line and make a motion to amend so that you're doing it. And then
you can't just hide behind somebody. Exactly. Yeah, you can't have the spokesman.
Yeah, then it looks popular. At that point, it's like, oh, this side's popular. Not, oh, this side, it's just that one guy who has issues with everything. Like,
exactly.
You got to be a team player on this. I know we're all independent people, but you got to coordinate, and that's what those chat groups are great for.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Let's see. Love you to you. Thank you for being here with us. Noreen says this convention is going to be very contentious in June. I mean, if it's anything like X and Facebook and everything we're doing, it sure is. So good to see you, Michael Anthony. And Loves you too says 3 need to know how many allotted per district. So let's see. Richard Schroeder in the House says, what can we do to vote on paper ballots inserted in a transparent ballot box and counted with video evidence? I do not want to use electronic clickers. Again, do not want a stand-up vote. So you want to take a stab at that?
So he's asking about paper ballots for
they won't pay. There's a lot of people there's people that are bringing ballot boxes. There's people that are bringing ballots with them. They want paper ballots. I mean, I don't know how much more that people can scream to this state. Even Donald Trump in the federal government can scream, we want paper ballots. What's it going to take?
Well, so here's the thing. So there's two different sides to it. So at a convention, they may try to say, if you're like, well, how do we do paper ballots? So I want to, so you want to do it with the convention rules to say that voting will be by ballot. When you make that motion, there have been cases where the convention chair turns to the person making the motion, which they shouldn't do, but they'll do it anyway, and say, well, do you have any provisions for paper ballots? Instead of standing vote. The other option is standing vote, which I would suggest if you do a standing vote, make sure that the rules say any vote must be counted with the numerical results announced, because otherwise it takes a majority vote to count the vote.
Okay.
But you would want to say, look, I want ballots. They may turn and say, well, do you have provisions for ballots? We didn't prepare any. And if they didn't prepare any and you don't have a response to it, then it can make the convention turn against you and be like, well, we don't want to be here all day waiting for you to come up with provisions. So showing up with the ability to do it is a good idea. You shouldn't have to. You should be able to use that to say, well, this leadership's pretty horrible, so anyone they recommend we should vote against. But, I mean, as a practical matter, you should be ready and prepared with it.
Right. So basically you're saying, if I understand you correctly, they're going to bring, well, logically, they would bring up, do we have provisions not having it? But if the people stood up and said, made point of inquiry, we have the provisions necessary, then that could make it likely to do, correct?
Yeah, and then the number one thing you should do is make a motion to amend convention rules to do all election voting by paper ballot.
Okay.
And then see what the response is and go from there, because that's how you guarantee it. And they may already have provisions for it.
Hey,
but you do not want to be caught in a situation where they might turn it around on you. And you also need to make sure that you aren't advocating for paper ballots for every vote, because that's sort of the issue at the state convention. Back when, I keep drawing a blank on who that convention chair was 2 years ago.
Was it somebody named Travis? No, it wasn't Travis. It was I can't remember either.
I don't think it was Barry. It wasn't Barry Fleming, was it?
It could have been. Maybe somebody in the comments will get that.
But what happened there is that you wanted the clickers for the procedural votes because he wasn't really doing a numerical count, nor could he, of the votes on like amending the agenda or trying to change the convention rules, because like it was just his discretion, and he was like, oh well, this passed or this failed. I mean, I don't think he knew if it was 2/3 or 1/3 or not, but he wasn't ordering the count. At least if you have the clickers and you click the button, you know how many people are in the convention hall.
Right.
So you may, but that's the thing though, is I'm not saying like trust them for the elections.
Sure, I get that.
You want paper ballots for the elections, but if you have a choice between an electronic system that you can watch the votes on the procedural votes versus just trusting the convention chair to get the numbers right.
Exactly.
They'll never get to resolutions if it takes 30 minutes for every vote on the resolution. Like you need to be able to do that faster.
I do agree.
Be ready for that. So that's what I would say about that, is make sure it's in the convention rules. And did someone ask how many people are allocated per district?
Yeah, it says I need to know how many people are allotted per district. I think they said 3 need, but I think it meant to say I need.
Do you know what are they talking about at district conventions?
Let's see. If you can be a little more specific, Loves You Too, we'll get down to that comment and at the end there. So I'll let them try to give us another one, or at least we can follow up with her.
Yeah, because I have that in front of me if someone.
Okay, all right. Loves You Too, if you're still watching with us.
The convention call. So.
Okay, great. Just be a little more specific on the comment for us, and we'll get you that information. So. Lisa says I'm a no. Oh, by the way, Richard, I hope you got all that. We're going to try to cut that out too, and push that out so everybody knows what they need to do, because I do agree on the clickers. Nobody really wants electronic clickers, and I know, just based on what I know from Columbus, that place was not set up right. I think Dalton's going to be set up a little bit better for the convention, at least what I know of it. So, but yes, we definitely want something that's better than, somebody out there we're trusting. So Lisa says I'm a no on qualifying Brad for anything. Let's see. She said, okay. And then Loves You Too just said resolutions as well. So I think she means good on the resolutions. Trish Ann, hey, good to have you. Says people leave after the vote for officers and you don't have a quorum. Yes. So we're all taking notes here, what we need to do. Good to have you, Christina. Let's see. Christina says, please tell us how the voting for state committee members goes. Example, there are 15 candidates, but only 12 slots available. I'm going to take a stab at that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the thing, is that and if it actually is 12 slots available, that's probably the first district, because that's the only one with 12 state committee slots.
Okay.
But the way it works, so again, if your party rules designate one person per county, then that will break it down. So you need to make sure the county rules go for what you want. But let's just say that you're in a place like 4th district, where I am, where we have 5 slots. Mm-hmm. So the way the convention rules read will dictate the way voting goes.
Okay.
What you want, at least if you have a majority of grassroots, anti-establishment, GRA type people in your district, is you want to make sure that the voting is it requires a majority to be elected. That has to be a minimum. Okay. So the point being that way, no matter how the vote's done, like if you have 8 people running for 5 positions, each of those 5 positions would be elected with a majority vote. It's not like everybody gets a vote and the top 5 get it, because that would mean that somebody could be elected with only like 10% of the vote. Like you'd have to be tactically voting to try to get all of your people above a certain threshold. Right. And the way it works is you want a majority of the district to be supporting each and every candidate.
Okay.
So what you want to make sure happens is that when voting goes on or when nominations happen, that you have at least one good person for each and every slot. And if for some reason there are bad people being nominated, you need to make sure someone from the floor, ideally your strongest people, go against the bad ones. Okay. Like if you have an establishment person in one of the running for one of the slots, you need to make sure one of the good people like is running against them and beats them. Like your people need to be ready with a short speech. Or if you're running, you have an entitlement under state party rules. If you're running for state committee, you can ask the district for a copy of the delegate and alternate list of the people going to your district convention, so you can email them or call them in advance, which I would strongly recommend doing, so that they know you're running, know your qualifications, know to vote for you. Send them the link to this video for so that they're more educated. They'll thank you for that, especially if they're new, and just get votes that way. But you need to win those positions.
Absolutely. And we're going to be cutting a lot of these questions out and just doing an own video on it, because these are really good questions. So I'm going to skip down a little bit because we're right at an hour and a half. And let's see here. Let me go through the questions. Oh, let's see. Rico time. I agree with that. Loves You Too. It's way past Rico time. Okay. Let's see. Charles says, what is a lookout for paper ballots before 2026? Not good at the moment. Oh, good to see you, Ray. Charles says, Sophia is a wonderful person and so smart, moral, and hardworking and very organized. William Blake McMillan from Savannah. Good to have you, sir. Let's see. Linda Mink says, Roy and Alex, this is absolutely insane. Thank you. I'm taking that as a compliment. Oh, Charles says you gave the best speech ever in 2012. Wow. Candace Taylor from down South Georgia says from Columbia County 2 years ago. Barry, I think it was Barry from Columbia County 2 years ago. Good to have you with us tonight, Candace. It says, she says, Chairman McCoon is a fabulous job, just as Alex Johnson would be if he chaired it. Yeah, why won't you chair it, Alex?
Hey, I'd do it at fast.
She says, though, that you were right. She said Barry Fleming was awful. And I remember those. God, I remember those signal groups. I was just really new to all this. And I can, it's one of those, like if I'm in the nursing home and I got dementia, that's one memory that I won't forget is watching these text groups go hog wild. It was crazy.
And now he's a judge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he got a promotion. That's wonderful. Okay, Charles is he's already made up his mind. Lydia Hallmark, Chairman is not a one-man show. Lydia Menk, Chairman is not a one-man show. Okay, I'm just going to try to get the questions here. You guys got a lot of good comments. Richard, I agree. Standing vote is not private. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Okay. Oh, see now, Loves You Too was writing that as a checklist. So it looks like we got everything checked off, Alex. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And William says, I love David Cross, election integrity hawk, spoke before state election board multiple times, pushing grassroots fight for free and fair elections. And Linda said, I meant the establishment pitching fits over David Cross. Okay. All right, guys, listen. So we have taken a lot of Alex's time tonight. Look, Alex, you promised you'll come back and do one for the state with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
I'd be glad to. I'd be honored to. I enjoy being on and talking with you and letting everyone else know what's going on.
Yeah, and I want to make a pledge to every person out there that I'm telling it like it is from me. I don't care who you vote for. All I want you to do is vote your conscience. I'm never going to endorse anybody on the show. I have my conscience. You have yours. But I'm never going to let a vote come between a person. And people might think that is weak. But, things get nasty. Politics is dirty. And the thing is I don't even want to know. I don't need to know who you vote for. All I need to know is that I'm participating in this and I'm going to make my stand. And if something like that ends a relationship, well, then it never was a relationship in the beginning, because the number one goal for every one of us should be to move the party forward, and regardless of where it ends. So, Alex, I appreciate you. I'm going to give you the last word, but I just want to tell you how important I think this is, that we educate people, because like it or not, I believe that Georgia is is in the fight of its life. And we have got to do something. We've got to build up better representation. We've got to do away from business as usual. We have to have transparency and accountability, and I don't believe we're getting it now. And so going into these next conventions is going to be very important in how we move forward. So I appreciate you, and especially all the people out there that are watching tonight, because until we get educated, until we get our minds right, we don't walk in like sheeple, and we need to know what's going on. So I'm going to leave you with the last word.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and thank all of you for listening. I would just say to please, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me at ajohnson@georgiara.com, and I can try to get back to you. I would also strongly encourage anyone watching and listening who agrees with the things I've been saying about what needs to be done and wants to see the party get better and the public office to get better, to join the GRA. Go to georgiara.com. That's for the Georgia Republican Assembly. You can apply to join on the website. We filter out people who are establishment, but that's not many of them to even try to join us, because they know that we are strong on that. We sometimes have to filter out some people who just are a little too, they don't work well with others necessarily, or they've attacked us. But in general, like we like everyone who's anti-establishment, if they're GRA members or not. We want to work together, even if they aren't GRA members. But I strongly encourage everyone who is an anti-establishment person who agrees with GRA principles, which are just basic Republican principles, to go to the website, georgiara.com, and join us, and send me an email if you need anything or have any questions at all. You you can reach me by phone as well. So just please be involved, stay involved, don't be discouraged, and let's make things better for the state of Georgia.
Yes, sir. And I can tell you, for somebody who's absolutely not running for office and can care less and knows that I'm not out there looking for anything, you've always been fair with me. The GRA's always been fair with me, and we're going to continue together, whether we like it or not. We've got a common goal in place to move this ball forward and take the state back to the principles of the party, the Constitution, you name it. So I appreciate your time tonight, and we'll definitely get some of these inserts cut out there where people can really get it in. And I can't wait to see everybody at the convention. So, all right, guys, if you like this, please share it, like it, subscribe, givesendgo.com. You can follow me, Small Town Underground. If you want to know anything about the GRA, you want my 2 cents on it, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I can tell you how to get involved. And that's the wrap. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you. Lisa Pierce we're hoping she's going to be on tomorrow night. We're going to explore her campaign on my Wednesday night show, and I will see you guys then.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting booty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.